Welcome to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour and podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myrna Young, and in the guest studio today is John Voris, author of the book, Discover the Power That Drives Your Personality, How Four Virtues Define Your World. Welcome, John. I am going to enjoy our conversation today because it's going to be a learning one for me. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. This is quite exciting.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let me give you some more information on John. For decades, John Voris has studied and read ancient and modern philosophers, as well as a wide range of psychology and metaphysical writings, both Eastern and Western. He wanted to know why some people succeeded while others failed at certain career paths, even though they had the same educational background and intelligence. He then put together a program based on his own observations and supported by his studies, his own wisdom, and the intelligence of hundreds of philosophers and psychologists throughout the centuries. And this approach has led to new insights by connecting old ideas together and giving them a personal application. Tapping into all this esoterical knowledge, John Voris is able to identify several hidden aspects to your being. So when you understand and leverage your authentic nature, you can express yourself freely and open yourself to your true motivations and desire, creating more energy and well-being in your life. All right, so awesome intro. What John and I are going to be talking on today is the topic, how to understand the life theme that drives your personality. So right off the bat, John, I want to ask you, how did your interest in philosophy and studying the great thinkers like Plato and Carl Jung begin? Was it parental or just, how did that start?
It began with my parents had talked me into becoming an attorney. And I thought at that time that was a good idea. And so when I went to Berkeley, I majored in philosophy, which was a recommended major. And so that's the reason why I became engaged in those thinkers. Then from there, I just expanded that into creating a method to understand human motivation.
So you're not linking. So when you started studying the great thinkers, how bridge the gap into motivation and personality?
Okay, so, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was. I get you. So what happened is I tried part-time jobs, door-to-door cold calling, and I was terrible at it. I failed badly. But what I did do is take workshops and seminars, and tried the best I could, but I still failed. So I want you to understand that these seminars and workshops and books and tapes, etc., they're very good. That's not the issue. The issue is it seemed as if I didn't have the intuition to understand them or have them work. Many people, of course, come out of these programs much better off, and they're satisfied. I wasn't. So I went and graduated. I quit sales, graduated, bought a delicatessen, and then when I sold it, I told one of my suppliers that I was leaving the business, and they wanted me to sell for them. That would be wholesale, which is very, very different. I thought that'd be a good idea. So I put my business up for sale, and but then he called me, and he said, oh, by the way, we're going to have to file bankruptcy. And that was terrifying because I now had a wife and a child, and I didn't know what to do, but he said, don't worry about it because we're going to go back where it started long ago, door-to-door, cold call, sales. Yeah. So I was terrified. And so what happened is I realized that for me, these courses didn't work, but I also realized what was missing was an extensive understanding of what communication is, how language works, etc., because I studied a great deal in the philosophy of language. So what I did is I just forgot everything I learned in sales, except the word hello. And after that I studied everything from Europe and discovered that Europeans, it's called continental philosophy and psychology, they offer something very, very different, not necessarily better, but different. Here in this country, we're called Western psychology and Western philosophy. And that difference was tremendous for me because in Europe, they looked toward what does it take to be human? What does it mean to be human? What's the human constitution? Okay. Yes. And so we think in this country that our marketplace has everything that's available, and it doesn't. And that was missing for me in all these sales courses. And I learned several principles. One is that the human mind has only one need. That need is to express its authentic identity, and we do it through objects, events, and people. We never stop, and what's more important than anything, it's universal, and it's absolute. So it doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't even matter what decade you're in. It's always the same. You're always expressing yourself through objects, people, and events. That means that the objects that are around you right now are past decisions. They're decisions to where I like this or I don't like that, or I feel like this is, it conforms to who I am, but it's not exactly what I would want. But it has their messages is the point. So what I would do is I would read the objects around people and understand their motivation. And by doing that, I was able to cold call for 20 years, and my average was 12 to 14 sales out of 20, which is very, very high. And it was all because I could read people. And I was able to support my wife and 2 children. She didn't work.
Wow. So this should have been an episode on influence, because that's another thing. I mean, if you know how to read people, then you can influence them into purchasing and buying, and you can influence them to do anything. So that's great. That's all part of communication. So yeah, we're going to expand on that objects. So let's expand on that. Let me see if that's one of the next questions. Actually, that was actually my next question that I had here. So how does objects that we surround ourselves with express and form our identities? Actually, that's a different part of a different form of the question, but let me ask you that. So let's do this one first before we get into that. How could you read the objects around people to understand their motivation? Expand on that. Like, I'm a salesperson. I actually started my career selling encyclopedias too, as well. And I hated it. I wasn't that bad at it, because I do have a little bit of a personality, and I'm a woman and all that kind of stuff. So I probably worked with charm. But, the men that don't have charm, or the men that, or whatever, they're going to be working on skill and motivation. And so explain how you were able to read the objects around people to understand their motivation.
Sure. So let's say, for example, someone were to walk into my office. My office is full of books. I have about 4,000 books in my office. And so when you look at those books, you know that I'm very curious, but extremely curious. And it's a compulsion of being curious. And I cannot stop it. And so that tells you that I am really driven by a certain domain. And in my world, I call that wisdom, the desire for wisdom. It's just where the energy is focused, that's all. And so then you look at the books themselves. Now, are they books about art? Are they books about sports? No. They're books about philosophers and psychologists. So that tells you that I'm looking for theoretical knowledge and not necessarily technical or detail. So that's enough. That would be enough for me to know how to language what I'm selling toward that which I just discovered, that domain of wisdom. And a reason why that would work is because when I describe my widget as belonging to and identifying with that person, they'll want it. That doesn't mean they'll buy it, but they'll want it. And as I describe it in their language, then I'm accepted as well. And then we have a different level of rapport. So now if I were to go into a beauty salon and I see these people interact, this is all about personality, having fun, maybe a little gossip. And these people really are very humanistic and in their job. And they need to be around people and interact with stories. And so they're really driven by probably either justice people or love people, because that's what they're doing. They want to appease. They want to serve. And so I would walk into that place and talk about the people I knew, the people that, let's say, did you know Janet 2 doors down bought my widget? And that's the way I would get interested. Whereas if somebody walked into me, then I wouldn't do that. I would talk about what is factual about what I'm selling. Very different. I had 3 different introductions.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's helpful for the salespeople that are listening. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. All right. So expanding on the objects now, let me ask the question that I have here. So how does the objects that we surround ourselves with express and form our identities and personality? So if we go with the 2 that you just mentioned, you mentioned the fact that you surround yourself with books, you surround yourself with wisdom books to be specific. So what is your identity and your personality? Let's look at you first, and then we would look at somebody maybe in a salon.
Well, what I do is I look at personality as a way of expressing, and and when it comes to what's being expressed, it's more your identity is doing the expressing. There's an old statement that I memorized years ago. It may be true that I think, therefore I am, but I am not where I think. And that's very important because beneath your thinking is who you are. And who you are is the cause of your thinking. So I'm looking for the identity. That's why the book is called Discover the Power That Drives Your Personality, because they're 2 very different things. And so when people have objects around them, objects, people, and events are the only way we can express ourselves. It's the only way we could find meaning. It's the only way we can find purpose. It can the only way to find self-actualization, self-realization is through the objects, events, and people around us. If they weren't there, we would not be able to do that. Okay.
So, as you were talking, something popped up in my head where, when I'm thinking of an object and that identifies personalities and identities, I'm thinking of maybe someone that's going to go out and buy a very expensive car, or are you talking about those type of objects? The clothes you wear, the house you live in, the car you drive. Because a lot of times people are identifying themselves by those objects.
Well, yes. But what I do is I look at it's holistic. So I not only look at where you live and what you have and your clothes and the patterns of your clothes or the lack of patterns of your clothes, all the objects around you. What do you like to do for fun? What is your hobbies? What did you get your degree in? Also, what's interesting is I have a questionnaire, which is about 30 questions. And one question is describe an event that actually happened that made you happy. Then describe an event that actually happened that made you upset. Believe it or not, both are linked to the same answer.
Really?
And the reason, the reason is they're linked to who you are. They have to be linked to who you are. There's no other possibility.
Wow.
So
That's deep right there. I can't even grasp it, but that's deep right there.
Well,
yeah.
So that's what I do. And I'll ask that. So when I'm talking to a person, they might just talk about their hobby. They're telling me what makes them happy. Mm-hmm. And so if it shifts to, oh, by the way, I want to tell you about my brother and what he did, that tells me what made him upset. But I put the two together, and boom, then you've got it.
Yeah.
You've got what really motivates them is going to be love, wisdom, justice, or power.
Yeah.
That's a major thing.
Yeah, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. Yes, I'm understanding where you're going now with that, and I love that. With the, when you're doing the personality questions, then there's a saying that says everything comes around back. Yes, so that's awesome. All right, so we have had a great start, a great intro to our topic today. We are going to take our first break. And when we come back, John is going to talk to us about the 4 archetypes that compose our identity and personality, which is, I guess, the main focus of his book. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Less than 1 week ago, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Jenna Kutcher, and Russell Brunson went live online holding an epic event with hundreds of thousands of people watching. They shared the KBB method on how to tap into a life of purpose, passion, and impact. This message is for everyday people like you, using what they already possess, their talents, skills, or experience to impact the world for profit. If you missed this live teaching, go to paulaslink.com to catch the replay before it's gone. That's PAULASLINK.com. Hello, everyone out there. Just wanted to take a brief moment to share with you a major credit secret that most people are not even aware of, that can help you with your credit needs. In this day and age, I think we all know how important good credit is and how credit is tied to everything we do, from buying a house, a car, a job, an apartment, insurance. Virtually everything comes down to your credit history. The problem is, many of us have made mistakes or just run into circumstances beyond our control dealing with credit. The good news is that secondcreditprofile.com can help you legally establish a new personal or business credit profile. This is the biggest secret that credit agencies don't want you to know about. I encourage you to check out secondcreditprofile.com for more information. That is SecondCreditprofile.com. We all use Facebook and Messenger to keep in touch. But the problem with these apps is that they're heavy on the data. So what happens sooner or later is that you run out of free space and you have to delete some stuff, like your favorite photos and videos. So this is where the app called Mackie shines. Mackie is a single app with both Facebook and Messenger, and it is also more than 10 times smaller. And that's not all. Mackie also allows you to remove Facebook ads in your newsfeed. Plus, protect your eyes at night with dark mode. Search for Mackie, that is M-A-K-I, in the Google Play to get it for free now. Or use the link on the show page, blog.myhelps.us, to download.
Are you a high-achieving woman of color who struggles with imposter syndrome, procrastination, and self-sabotage? Are you tired of going to bed each night hoping that tomorrow will be a better day, only for it to be more of the same? Are you sick of empty affirmations that make you feel good but don't actually lead to change? And are you over being shamed and yelled at to do the work with no insight as to how to get it done? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then friends, this podcast is for you. Search Productive on Purpose in your favorite podcast app and listen today. Oh, and if you struggle with procrastination, go to planning.productivepurpose.com to download your free Planning for Procrastinators guide. It's time to start walking in our purpose, y'all.
Hi, my name is Shaniqua, and I am the proud owner of Sunny Hair Care. This is the organic line aiming to promote and maintain healthy hair in the African American community. I personally hand fill and label each bottle to perfection just for you guys. Please check out my website at sunnyhairproducts.myshopify.com, and please follow us on Instagram at Sunny Hair Care. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life Radio Hour and Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myrna Young, and today we are speaking to John Voris, who is the author of the book, Discover the Power That Drives Your Personality, How 4 Virtues Define Your World. In the first segment, John talked to us about objects around us and how those objects, points to our identities and our personalities. And, we ended that segment by talking about or touching on the 4 archetypes that comes out of the personality test, I guess. So as we start the second segment, I just want John to expand on what are the 4 archetypes, and then, if you can expand on how they connect to our personality.
Sure. First of all, I wanted to find out if there is such a thing as a human default system, something that, again, is universal and absolute. And I read several books about different theories. Then one day I was reading the autobiography or the biography of Captain Cook, and they were talking about the 4 corners of the earth. And I thought that was strange, given at the time everybody knew that the earth was round. Why it's round, right? And then I realized that when we think about navigation, it's north, south, east, and west. We think up, down, left, and right. And so I started looking into this idea of 4 and find that it's pervasive. It's everywhere. It's not the only number, of course, but it's really a very basic concept of 4. And one area I was looking at are the shamans of the world. And they broke down the human condition into 4 segments. For example, they would have healer, a visionary, a teacher, and a warrior. There's philosophers who would transfer that into self-affirmation, realization, self-knowledge, and self-actualization. And then there's 4 philosophers in Europe that would break that down to caring, being in a relationship, curious, and change. And the modern view of that would be love, justice, wisdom, and power. So this is something that I derived from history and from the thinkers throughout history that was consistent. There's many ideas, but they're not as consistent as these 4. And they're even discussed today, but in Europe. This is a European issue here. Existential psychology works from these 4. Many people who seek psychiatry are basically just normal people that are just dealing with life issues, but their life issues are life doesn't have meaning for me, I feel powerless, I feel alone, and I don't feel self-actualized. There's the 4. And that was important for me because if these 4 is a formula for success and happiness, then the lack of them must be the formula for misery, and it is. And I also, so that worked out very well. And so these are really the 4 virtues, and they never leave us. And they could be, you can take it from a very large perspective, absolute, or every day. For example, if you go to your faucet and you turn on brown water, you say, well, that doesn't look healthy. Well, that's your love quadrant. And then you say, well, there's something wrong. That's your justice. Somebody must know what's going on. That's your wisdom. I'm going to make a call. That's your change, your power. And so we use all 4 every hour, every minute. We're always using it. But what's really great to see is we never escape these 4. We cannot, and that's a human condition.
Okay. So, all right. So that's good. So, how are you? How is that helping with our identities and our personalities?
So we have all 4, but there's one that's dominant. That's what I call the life theme.
Okay.
So you could be love, but you also have love, justice, wisdom, and power. Now, because you have a love theme, the way you look at what's fair is through the eyes of love. The way you look at knowledge is what can I learn in order to express compassion, for example, or support, for example. What is it that I can do in order to express my love, compassion, etc.? So from a love perspective, that's what's dominating everything that a love person would do. And when it comes to love and compassion and desire and caring, that's really back to a session. And so that's how you find out who people are very rapidly. Once you find that out, then you realize their reasoning is all connected to the same life thing. So if I know that, then I know how to generate rapport. But to have a better model, think of you and I are going to we're going to produce a Western movie. And so it was 1850. There's going to be a town there. There's going to be a bar. There's going to be cowboys, cowgirls, horses, guns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if we open up the door and there's a vampire there, then we can't call this a traditional Western any longer.
No.
So you see, the theme, Western, is really, it fixes it, but at the same time there's flexibility because we don't know who the actors are. We know there's good people, but we don't know who they'll be. There's bad people, but we don't know who they'll be. So you take that concept and move it over to a career. So let's imagine you have let's say you have a carpenter. A master carpenter takes 20 years of experience. So now that's the theme, okay, master carpenter. Now, what's an aspect? What does it take to be a master carpenter? What do you think?
Well, you've got to practice your skill. I mean, if you're going to be 20 years at it, you're going to have to keep doing some carpentry. You're going to have to learn woodwork, and you're going to have to learn, certain things. Maybe you apprentice by learning from somebody, and then you get better by doing it.
Okay. So one word you touched on is persistence, right?
Right.
And the other one would be patience. You have to be very patient to be a carpenter. Let's say a finishing carpenter that works on the wood inside of a yacht, for example. It has to be very precise. So that's another issue, too, detailed. It has to be detailed. So the question is, would anybody be a master carpenter fail to be persistent, fail to be patient, and fail and lack detailed understanding? In your imagination, you can say, well, of course, there's got to be someone. But in reality, if that happened, they wouldn't have been on the job for 20 years.
Right.
So you see, so what I've just done is we've just discussed, in a sense, essential qualities of this person I'm about to see who happens to be a master carpenter. Just like a movie and our Western, I can't walk in and see a vampire sitting in the saloon, and I'm not going to be watching somebody who is impatient throwing wood around because they can't get things right.
Right.
See that there's a parallel there? So now what I've just done is I have an idea of who this person is. I haven't even met them yet.
Okay. All right.
Now then I walk in the door and then I continue. But about 70% of who I know they'll be, what I'll meet, is already done. Next is then I refine them. And this all comes from understanding the 4 archetypes and the fact that we need to express who we are. And it never stops.
Okay. So a carpenter, what would be his driving system? Love, justice, wisdom, or power, change? I think I'm going to guess the power change one. No?
No. At this point, we don't know. My guess would be justice, and that's because justice people deal with a relationship. It's always in relation. They're carpenters, architects. They're always dealing in duality. The 2 aspects are they understand sentimentality and they understand facts. They learn facts so they can help and support other people. A good idea would be entrepreneurs, a restaurant owner. There's 2 things, 2 large issues at work. Is one, he has to know people, and the other is he has to know how to deliver the service to them factually so they can be satisfied and be back. It's a dual process. So carpentry is a dual process. That'd be my guess, but I don't know.
Okay. Okay. All right. Until you refine them, until you do the personality test. So, what is a personality profile test?
Okay. So I'm sorry, but that's really, in my world, the wrong word to use. It's the authentic identity assessment.
Okay.
And identity assessment is I want to know who you are beneath your personality, which is why the book is called Discover the Power that drives your personality. They're 2 separate things. Your identity is what's moving your personality. Your personality shows you how you do things. Your identity shows you why. And that's what I want. So when the word persistent or patient or detailed shows me the why. That shows me why they are a master carpenter, because this is who they are. This is how they're expressing who they are. So my identity assessment is about 35 questions. And I ask very simple, what courses did you like the most in school? What did you think of math, for example? So many people would say, and I've had it happen, math. I excelled in math. I loved it. But then when I ask them why, and they tell me it was the teacher. And so that really throws everything off. But I'm there to ask the question.
I would love to take that. I like finding out about myself. Yes, I guess you're going to tell us how we can get that later on, right?
Actually, yeah, I could do that later on.
Okay.
So the idea, though, is that we are, all of us really are, we're given genetic logic, you might say. In order to be human, you have to have universal genetic logic already present. But then you develop that into individual logic, which is yourself, which all that means is what you do is tied reasonably to who you are. So how you feel and your worldview that makes your decisions for you. And you reach out to reason as a tool to get what you want.
Yeah, so, even though 95% of the world are operating unconsciously and they don't know who they are, so they're just, bumping into this.
Well, yeah, they're using their own reason.
Right. Mm-hmm. And
their own reason. For example, if I were to say, if someone were to make the statement, violence is up because Hollywood glorifies violence. So you have to look at that and say these are 2 very separate sentences. They don't belong together at all. So it may be that, say, crime is on the rise, and it may be that Hollywood glorifies violence. But those are 2 very different statements. Now, who would put that together?
I could probably put that together, though, because I probably said that myself.
Yes, you would. Thank you. You just told me who you were. Okay? You did.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and so who would say that? What type of person would say that?
Well, the type of person that that believes that people are very gullible and they always want to follow their followers. And so if they go to the movie theater all the time and see someone just shooting people and blowing their head off, they become a bit, it not only glorifies it, maybe they want to take the gun and shoot somebody themselves, or they become, it doesn't shock them any longer. So that means, that's how I feel. I mean, I wouldn't go around making that statement, but if someone were to say it, I would say that it's probably true. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, right.
Okay. Now, this is not about being right or wrong, good or
right.
bad,
Mm-hmm.
or anything.
Right.
So what you just did for me is you used reason to express the relationship, the valid relationship between the two statements.
Okay.
That's what you did. And so that's fine. And so that tells me that you're a justice person.
Okay. I probably am. I am.
Yeah.
I am. I hate injustice. It burns me.
Well, now that's
good.
That's your job. You see, this is interesting. See, you're
mm-hmm.
here to support other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what you do. And that is, in a sense, is your job to do that.
Right.
And so if you're not in that position to do that, you're not going to find your happiness and success. You have to be able to actually find your authentic identity and have it fully expressed. And so, so you're in the action of doing that.
Okay.
So that's your job.
Good.
So what would happen if you were in a warehouse, worked in a warehouse? How would you feel?
Yeah, you have no power there, right? You're just packing stuff. Yeah, that wouldn't do anything for me at all.
Yeah, so
because you have no power. You have no power. You're just like a robot. I mean, I'm assuming that's the kind of job, like a warehouse where you're on an assembly line kind of deal. I mean, I would do that if I have no choice, but it wouldn't certainly not make me happy.
Right. So when you said you lost your power, you just told me that's part of your purpose.
Right. Well, yeah, you need to make changes. Yeah, so purpose
but that's not the type of
do it. Right. Mm.
That's not the type of change you want.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this is all fascinating. Like I said, I definitely need to take your 35 questions. So we'll definitely have to share that before the end of the show. Now, let's talk about your book before we go into our break. So tell us about your book, Discover the Power That Drives Your Personality, How Four Virtues Define Your World. I'm sure you gave us probably a synopsis, from what we've spoken so far. But is there anything you want to add?
Yes, I would say that the bulk of it is about relationships.
Okay.
Because you have the love and you have the power people, and that's like oil and water.
Mm-hmm.
You have the wisdom people and the justice people. They'll get along, and they'll get along with love people, provided that the ratio is correct. So I have to explain that. So you have love and wisdom, and when love and wisdom is combined, you have justice. Justice people have a sense of morality and ethics. We all do. That's where our morality and ethics comes from. So a moral statement, for example, if a 4-year-old accidentally shot a man with a gun because he was playing with it, the fact is someone passed away is a fact, but also the fact is that the boy was 4 years old. So our sentiment says, well, we can't accuse him of murder. That wouldn't be right. So you see, the sentiment comes out. So it's feeling and wisdom generates justice. That's why that's why you're good at what you do. Now, but also it explains your relationship with other people. So where you will have a problem with is power people. And that's because power people are out to get the job done, and quite often they overlook any moral or ethical considerations.
True. Mm-hmm. Okay. So power is married with what?
But power and wisdom get along.
Okay.
Wisdom feeds power because power needs facts in order to lead, let's say.
Okay.
Wisdom can get along with justice, provided that there's enough wisdom in that identity. So it's like justice is 50% love and 50% wisdom in theory. But what happens is one always dominates the other. So you might have 60% wisdom and 40% love in someone.
Okay.
Or the reverse. So the point is that what I do when I assess someone is I can actually tell them if they're married and they're happy. That's very important. If they're happy, I could describe their husband or wife.
Okay. All right.
And also I can start describing their children.
All right. So so you expand on the the relationships, and the relationships drives your personality kind of thing. That's basically what the bulk of the book is. You're saying, right? And the relationships all form a certain combination of the four archetypes.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone is finished reading the book, what are they taking away from it?
They will know they'll know who they get along with and why. They'll know why they have problems with certain people.
That's good.
They'll actually be able to apply this to their own children. Apply this at work, relationships. It doesn't matter. It's always present because it's universal and it's absolute. And so it's a way to see yourself and others and how you've been relating. And so when I do couples, for example, you find that it's not them that are having the arguments. In a sense, it's their archetypes that are at war. And once they see that, they can
clashing, right?
Their issues. Yeah.
Yes, that's actually very true. That's very, very true. So that's awesome. Yeah, because everybody would like to know that. I was confusing it to like the Briggs-Meyer kind of personality test things, where when you go to a job, then they want to know what motivates you or your personality type, so they can understand how you would work together with a team and that kind of thing. Is there any similarity at all in this, or is it totally different?
Oh no, that's good. So what happens is they're looking for what do you do, how do you function, and that's very important. And so these employers want to give a Myers-Briggs test to find out how you will get along behaviorally with others. That's very good. What I'm doing is focusing on the state of being. Who are you being when you're doing? So the way I describe that is we may live in a physical world of visible physical objects, but we live and die for the invisible abstract ideas.
True.
That's where my focus is on the being, and their focus on the doing.
On the doing. Awesome. Loving it. All right. Well, let's take our second break. And when we come back, John is going to tell us how we can get a copy of his book and maybe take this personality test. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Are you listening to Dawn Kids Podcast? Well, go listen. Listen or download the Dawn Kids Podcast on your iPhone, your Android, or your computer. Dawn's Kids Podcast. Listen on your iPhone, Android, or computer. That is DAWNE_SKIDZ Podcast. SLS Group is an immigration law firm doing residency and citizenship for Africa investors. SLS Group has been operating in Africa with an administration office in Canada and another main office in Morocco. If you would like immigration services, please contact Mr. Hassan, the regional manager, by phone at country code 0021, the number 269-988-0481, or contact Mr. Hassan by email at hassan.n@slsgroup.com. That email again is hassan.n@slsgroupe.com. Are you a student athlete being recruited for college or professional sports? If not, would you like to be? Use hashtag FairPayToPlayAct to apply. That is hashtag sign FairPayToPlayAct to apply. We are giving college athletes an opportunity to profit from their brands. Attend the Student Athlete Forum, where active, retired, and former athletes will share their experiences of getting recruited and drafted into college and professional sports. April 4th, tickets available on Eventbrite. Did you start your New Year's resolutions yet? I bet there's one resolution missing that you should add right now. And that is to find a greater sense of purpose in your life. To do that effectively, you need to understand the 8 key components of living with purpose. The new book, The Meaning of Life, A Guide to Finding Your Life's Purpose by Nathaniel Garrett Novosel, is a complete step-by-step walkthrough of how humans derive meaning from their existence. This book helps you to identify what really matters to you in life, define a clear plan of going after what you want, and grow toward fulfilling your true calling. Best of all, this book does not tell you how to live your life or which goals you should have. Instead, it helps you figure it out for yourself. That's what you really want. Someone in your corner helping you make sense of your life, not someone with their own agenda telling you what to do. This book is a life changer, and I recommend that you go out and get it right now. The Meaning of Life, A Guide to Finding Your Life's Purpose by Nathaniel Garrett Novosel. Available now on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Apple Books, so order today.
Original author S.M. Ford presents Memoirs of the Senator's Wife. Wealthy Xavier meets and marries impoverished Estella in college. Being a member of a prominent political family, and with the aid of a magical secret society, Xavier runs for Congress and easily wins. But Xavier's abuse and indiscretion with celebrities quickly destroy their marriage. Due to the responsibilities of motherhood and duty, Estella remains in her unhappy marriage, but finds love with her kind and gentle protector, Michael. Will Estella abandon her responsibilities to live happily ever after with Michael? Or will she remain in the glamorous and powerful world of a senator's wife? #1 international bestseller. 5 stars hot, sexy, funny, and made me cry. The story is very compelling and well-structured. A masterpiece. Goodreads review. Available now on Amazon. Contact on Twitter at twitter.com/SM Ford.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life Radio Hour and Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Renee Young, and today I am speaking with John Voris. He is the author of the book, Discover the Power That Drives Your Personality, How 4 Virtues Define Your World. And in our last segment, we got into the main archetypes, that that defines your being, as John described it. Yes. Okay. Trying to find my notes here. So yes, we're looking at wisdom, love, justice, power, or change, and he talked about the fact that his book basically goes into the relationships with, wisdom and love equals justice, or, power and wisdom. And he says that's basically who you are being, that is, not your behaviorally, but who you are underneath. So very important to understand what drives you. And I can, and then he finished up by saying that when he does couples, a lot of times couples are, their archetypes is what's they're fighting and what's clashing. So it's always good to understand, who you are, or basically, what drives you. So one of the ways to do that is to take a personality test. So John, one of the first things I want to ask is, how do the listeners get a copy of that? Do they have to buy your book, or do you have a website that they can go download that? How is that working?
Okay, so first I have the book on Amazon, and of course that's Discover the Power That Drives Your Personality. Then you can also go to my site, which is johnvoris.com, and then you go to Authentic Identity Assessment, and it'll explain everything to you at that point. And I do it online, and it's the questions are very simple, but they're very revealing at the same time. And you learn what really motivates you. In case the whole issue is that so many people really don't know who they are or what they should be doing, and this really helps them out. And I also work with people who are coaches, trainers, and who are looking for something deeper than a Myers-Briggs test.
Yeah. So, so you spell out your name, because they might not be able to. So it's John. Everybody knows John. How do we spell your last name?
V as in Victor, O-R-I-S.
Okay.
And it's just John Voris, one word.
Right. .com. Awesome. And so they go to Amazon for your book. There's going to be a link on the show page to the book, and a link to your website as well on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. So just to clarify, so when they go on your website, there's a link for them to download the personality test, correct?
I
keep calling it personality test, identity assessment test.
Okay. What they do is they contact me. Okay. It's one-on-one, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I work with each individual. And so they will contact me. I will contact them, and I start the process. It's a one-on-one. And I want to say, since I started this in 2003, I've never had two be the same.
Wow. Yeah, we're all like our fingerprints. We're all individual. We're all different.
Yep.
So that's amazing. Okay, all right. I know the reason I said, because a lot of the time some people have these things that you can download. All right. So I wanted to clarify that. So it's one-on-one. So you're asking the questions, and then I guess after that, then you give them a result. I'm assuming. Right?
What I do is we get together, and I send them the questionnaire. They fill it out, and I have it back. Then we set up 2 hours, and I talk to them one-on-one for 2 hours, and we fill out a workbook. And it discusses what gives them meaning, what gives them happiness, relationships, and purpose. And we find those answers. And then they have the book for a week at home, and a lot of people make different copies in their car, work, etc. And so when something comes up, they want to validate it. That's very important for me. And we meet the following week for 1 hour, and we validate everything we discussed. Then I also send them a report. So for me, it's about 5 to 6 hours of work. And then I send a report to them. So it's quite extensive.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good. That's awesome. All right. Well, this has been a blast. So, I went a little deeper into my understanding of archetypes and personalities, and and how people show up. So thank you very much, John, for expanding our knowledge on the subject of personality. And you mentioned that you work with coaches, but yeah, as a life coach, I know that our personalities determine how we show up in life. So it's great to learn how our personalities are formed by, and also what is a driving archetype that that how we communicate with people. So I also like the fact that you started off by saying that you can learn from people or who somebody is by looking at the objects around them. That's pretty deep. Yeah. So and I'm assuming you talk about that in your book.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Perfect. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, definitely would like to get a copy of that, because that's something I would like to explore more. All right, so as I mentioned, to read a transcript of this episode and to get the links to John's website and his book, head over to blog.myhelps.us. You will also find links there to our sponsors for today. Want to remind you to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player so you'll be notified of new episodes. And also, would love for you to write a review on iTunes that gives feedback to me to let me know that I'm in the right path. Any last words, John, before we wrap up?
Yeah, this is really designed. I didn't have the intuition that a lot of people have when taking other courses, so this is for the people who don't, like me, and it works out very well for them.
What are you talking about?
Well, for a lot of people take courses that are more esoteric, more spiritual, and they're very good, but some people can't get that connection. And so I work with something very physical like objects. It makes it different.
Right. Okay, I know what you're saying. Right, yes, yeah, objects, yes, yeah, we are in a physical universe. So yeah, we use what's around us. So that's great. Awesome. All right, well, once again, John, thank you so much for being an excellent guest. I want to thank our listeners for staying with us until the very end. We'll meet you right back here next week, same time. So until then, namaste.